What's up, guys? My name is Elias, and this weekend was Batman Day, and numerous actors have donned the Dark Knight's iconic cape and cowl in the 80 years since Lewis Wilson first portrayed the character in the 1943 movie serial titled The Batman. Every on screen iteration of the Caped Crusader has provided something unique to the mythos. However, few have been able to properly capture the dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and his vigilante alter ego. This video will provide my personal ranking of each live action interpretation of my favorite comic book superhero, but a quick disclaimer, there are two live action outings that I either haven't seen whatsoever or haven't finished, and those are the Batman and Batman and Robin movie serials that released in 1943 and 1949, respectively. Therefore, I have chosen to leave each of those Batman actors out of this particular ranking, but without further ado, let's get it. Hello, I want my Batsuit. Coming in at number 11 is Warren Christie from CW's Batwoman. Now, the CW had teased Earth Prime's version of Bruce Wayne since the early days of Arrow, but until Batwoman came along, that's all it ever was, a tease. Enter Warren Christie. Although the October Road alum may have certainly looked the part of the debonair philanthropist, he drew the short stick when it came time for his Bat of Gotham. The very last episode of the series' first season saw its breakout villain Alice surgically replace Tommy Elliott aka Hush's face with that of Bruce's. These plot beats are crucial for understanding why Christie played Bruce as a villainous antagonist from the jump. It's odd the Arrowverse chose to finally introduce its version of the character this way, as it didn't do the actor's turn in the role any favors. It almost seems like the network feared having Batman on the show would undercut Javicia Leslie's Ryan Wilder, Kate Kane's replacement, and instead vied for Bruce to be little more than a plot device. Had he been given the chance to establish the cynical yet heroic stoicism synonymous with the Dark Knight detective, I feel like he could have been a solid Batman. Fortunately, aside from not even suiting up as the vigilante, Christie wasn't even given much to do beyond the 4 episodes he showed up in. Although a dreamlike sequence from Luke Fox briefly showed us the potential of Christie's portrayal, altogether his lack of screen time and overall purpose in the show ultimately became his downfall, succumbing him to the bottom of the live action outings. More people should drop their problem children off buildings. It clarifies the mind and body. At number 10, I got Ian Glenn from HBO Max's Titans. Now, I was thrown for a loop when it was announced that Ian Glenn was casted as Gotham's resident vigilante on Titans. The Game of Thrones alum was amazing as the noble Jorah Mormont, but how they landed on him for Bruce Wayne? I'll never know. Though I understand that the powers that be desired to present an aging world weary that word try saying that 5 times fast. World weary version of the billionaire recluse, I don't believe Glenn was the right choice. Not only was he pushing 60 at the time, but the creative decisions to give him quirky dance moves and let him sport his blonde hair didn't exactly scream Bruce Wayne. Additionally, because he had murdered his Earth's Joker and was supposed to be thoroughly hated by Nightwing, it didn't really resonate with me that he came off as more of a cool uncle than a tortured soul whenever he spoke his dialogue. Had Glenn played more of a mentor like position, such as Bruce's role in the Batman Beyond series, I'd probably be more on board for his portrayal. Unfortunately, he never seemed to do justice to the detached vigilante in the few episodes he appeared in, but I did quite enjoy the premonition scene Nightwing had in season 1 of Batman becoming this borderline serial killer. See what I mean, though? Battle not with monsters unless you become a monster. At number 9, I got Kevin Conroy from CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. Full of surprise cameos and childhood wish fulfillments, the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover saw the live action debut of Kevin Conroy as Earth 99's Bruce Wayne. Who's that, you may ask? Why, none other than the actor famous for voicing him in the classic Batman the Animated Series. But if you didn't know that, you're living under a rock. When it was announced that Conroy would get a chance to finally be Batman in live action, the kid inside me was jumping for joy. Perhaps I'm biased, but every time I read a Batman comic, the actor's iconic voice is what I picture him to sound like. Also, to see him in that preservation armor from the classic Kingdom Come storyline in the comics was something I never thought I would get to see in my lifetime. It was clear come Batwoman's episode in the crossover that DC had pulled out all the stops to provide the fan service we all deserve. However, Conroy falls on the low side of the list for one reason. He never actually suited up as the Bat, though we do get a glimpse of his costume during an exchange with Ruby Rose's Kate Kane. Furthermore, I should mention the network received some backlash for making his Bruce Wayne a murdering psychopath, but I for one appreciate that his lapse in morality was at least explained in the story. For me, the legendary Kevin Conroy sits comfortably at number 9. This is why Superman works alone. At number 8, I got George Clooney from Batman and Robin. Hot take, but in my opinion, George Clooney wasn't as terrible in the pointy ears as the majority of people say he was. Sure, was Batman and Robin a huge flop that featured Arnold Schwarzenegger spouting ice puns for 2 hours? Absolutely. Is it still one of my ultimate guilty pleasures to throw on every now and then? You bet your butt it is. Many of the problems with this infamous train wreck of a flick stem from the corny writing and campy direction. However, if you go back and watch the movie, the scenes with Bruce and Alfred together include some of the most wholesome interactions we've ever seen on screen with the billionaire orphan and his foster father. This makes me think that in another movie made by a different director and penned by competent writers, Clooney's Batman would have been a force to reckon with. To his dismay, the late Joel Schumacher turned out a product that was self-proclaimed to have been made for the sole purpose of selling toys, doing Clooney and company zero favors in return. Clooney frequently apologizes for this mess of a film, which you can't help but respect and appreciate how long-lasting of a career he's had after the film flopped. His constantly bobbing head, infamous batsuit nipples, and cringy one-liners aside, I think my general bias for so bad it's good movies saves the actor from being any lower on the list. In all honesty, the sixth live action Batman did the best he could with the material he was given. At least he can make fun of himself and be the Batman in the worst possible universe the Flash could have gotten stuck in. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. At number 7, I got Adam West from the 1960s Batman series and the 1966 Batman movie. Beloved by many, the late great Adam West is held in high regard when compared to every other actor on this list. For most people who grew up in the golden era of the 60s, West is the definitive portrayal of Bruce Wayne slash Batman. However, for the rest of us, his campy antics, over the top dialogue, and odd assortment of gadgets, looking at you, shark repellent bat spray, are simply too much to take in. The Batman series was truly a product of its time, which does alleviate some personal misgivings of mine with West's incarnation. From its conception, it was clear the series was not to be taken too seriously. There was a hotline where Batman and his young ward Robin could be reached, a multitude of fight scenes splashed with pow and bam, and a bevy of holy Toledo Batman type lines that simply wouldn't fly on television today. That being said, I'd be hard pressed not to have respect for West and Company's cognizance of the kind of show they were in, as it allowed them to fully embrace the cheesiness it imbued. Personally, as a child of the 90s, I like it when my Batman is dark and gritty, which are two attributes that West simply didn't have. Though his Batmobile and costume were truly iconic, the only reason West sits above George Clooney for me is simply because he went all in with the silliness and held nothing back. For that, his legacy will no doubt stand the test of time as a one of a kind Batman for the books. No offense, but you don't strike me as a nice person. Just missing the top 5, I got David Mazouz at number 6 from Fox's Gotham. Back in 2013, it was announced that Batman would receive his own origin story set in the annals of Gotham City, providing a living, breathing setting the likes of which we hadn't seen displayed on screen before. It was raw, full of grit, and rife with dark and daring corners at every turn. This was truly a place that felt deserving of someone as crazy as Bruce Wayne would inevitably become to protect it, which is where David Mazouz comes in. Not only did the Touch Alum look perfect as a young Bruce Wayne, but he absolutely nailed the anger and vengeful ambition necessary to play the character. In the later seasons, he took it up a notch by acting like the billionaire playboy necessary to hide his true persona, the bat beneath the mask. Although I have mixed feelings of the show itself, mainly with its shoehorning of Batman's greatest rogues pre Batman, when it came down to the series finale, I was not disappointed. As the Dark Knight, Bruce sticks to the shadows, takes out the Joker with haste and gadgets, and speaks to Catwoman with his signature growl. While it all made the child in me jump for joy, a big part of me wishes that this had been what the show was about all along, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. Finally, with its closing shot, Mazus in full Batman gear stands on a rooftop looking at Gordon as if to say, "Don't worry, I'm here now." And although the costume is nothing spectacular, as far as the silver screen goes, this scene will always give me goosebumps. The kid truly had a difficult task ahead of him in joining the long spanning tenure of live action Batman, but in my honest opinion, he stands with the best of them. If only his appearance as the Dark Knight was more prominent, then I'd be hard pressed to keep the now 24-year-old actor from a place in the top 5. A vengeance. Rounding out the top 5, I got Robert Pattinson from 2022's The Batman. I can't be the only one that was dumb hyped for this movie when it came out, right? After that DC Fandom trailer in 2021, I felt like Robert Pattinson had made me eat any doubts I had concerning his casting in the Matt Reeves epic. I didn't care that he was the Twilight guy or anything because I've seen him nail more dramatic projects where his acting skills were truly put to the test. Although I couldn't picture him as Batman at first, I was proved wrong upon my first viewing in theaters. Pattinson, see what I did there? Well, everybody calls him Pattinson, I guess, brought a swagger to Batsy that was sorely missing since the Michael Keaton era. Not to mention he's brutally vicious and absolutely mental, which are all key aspects to Bruce Wayne's psyche. To top it off, this was the first time we really see Batman earn the moniker of world's greatest detective as he becomes involved in a murder mystery, something sorely missing in previous films. Additionally, he has great chemistry with the rest of the cast, is intimidating as all heck, and that armor is just so darn beautiful. Don't even get me started on his Batmobile, by the way. Thing is, the dude cares more about being Batman than Bruce Wayne, wherein lies my problem with his take on the character. His Bruce, let's just say, needs work. A lot of work. He acts exactly how he does out of his bulletproof shell the way he does in it. I found myself pondering, how the F does no one know he's Batman? Like, how? But what saves the actor from being lower on this list is that his non typical portrayal at least makes sense for the story. This Bruce Wayne is supposed to have only been a year or two as Batman, with his mission mattering more to him than keeping up a public persona to sway people's suspicions of his nightly adrenaline fueled escapades. Therefore, the emo Batman works in the context of the film, even if he's a straight up D bag sometimes. I sincerely hope the sequel sees Pattinson up his game and really give us a distinct and charismatic performance when he's in the suit and tie. For now, though, his Batman remains one of the best versions of the vigilante we've seen on film yet, earning his spot in the top 5. I'll get drive through. At number 4, I got Val Kilmer from 1995's Batman Forever. Shocked? I bet. Being the first Joel Schumacher directed Batman movie, the masses were completely unaware per the outcome of this particular iteration of the character. That is, until the first trailer premiered, giving audiences a glimpse as to the vibe the flick's set to put out. It's colorful, it's fun, and it's got Jim Carrey as one of the two main villains. It was transparent that the days of Tim Burton and Michael Keaton's gothic vision was given a complete overhaul. Is this a fun, turn your brain off type of movie? Yes, it is. But that doesn't stop my man Val Kilmer from putting his all into the role. This guy gets way too much undeserved hate for Batman Forever. In his defense, the late Kilmer's performance is rooted in expectations as he anticipated making a totally different movie than what was released, hence why he didn't return for Batman and Robin. In past interviews, Kilmer has stated that he wanted to bring the trauma and true darkness within Bruce Wayne to the surface to create a more nuanced character akin to Michael Keaton's portrayal. It's not exactly his fault that the movie simply went in a different direction. Apparently, a 3 hour cut of the film exists somewhere in the pitch black depths of the Warner Brothers chopping block, piquing my curiosity to see just how much more the actor was able to bring to the part. All in all, though, Kilmer's turn in the title role is something to be admired. He handles the cool, cocky, and sophisticated side of Bruce Wayne with finesse. His eyes and actions convey his inner struggle with the necessity to be Batman almost as much as Bruce Wayne, presenting a near perfect balance between the two. Though he smiles while in the suit, which contains the signature Schumacher nipples, and joins the Batman legacy of corny one liners, he delivers them with a dry wit, kicks major butt, and rides dope bat themed vehicles. For me, Kilmer deserves his spot at number 4. Insert the thumbs up Batman gif. Swear to me. At number three, I got my man Christian Bale from the Dark Knight trilogy. Can you believe the majority of fans were not on board when Christian Bale was announced as the new Batman for 2005's Batman Begins? Hindsight being 2020, that sounds blasphemous, doesn't it? Luckily, the director Christopher Nolan of Memento fame took a chance on the American Psycho actor, and the rest was history. However, you may feel about Bale's gurgling voice when he's under the mask or how slow he is in combat, there's no denying his hard work and dedication to achieve the physicality of the role. Bale went from 120 pounds in 2004's The Machinist to a hefty 240 pounds of bulk just to be told to cut down to 220 pounds to fit in the batsuit. Guess what? He did it without even batting an eye. Oops, I did it again. Not only is he the second largest Bruce Wayne on screen, but he's arguably the best, as he gallivants with multiple women and spends his riches to play up his billionaire persona. Throughout this genre defining origin story, Bale delivers a unique performance with a subtle nuance needed to master the psychology of the character, which separates him from everyone below him on the list. In this hyper realistic version of Gotham, it's evident that a savior is required to expel the crime and corruption plaguing the streets. Bale's conviction pulls the audience into believing the only man insane enough for the job is indeed Batman, excusing him from the destruction he causes with his now iconic Batmobile, the Tumbler. I've always said this, but had Begins been the only film in Bale's venture as Batman, it might have been more difficult for me to keep him from the top spot. However, in The Dark Knight and Rises, where Bale falters is in his rivals. In the sequels, he easily becomes overshadowed by the powerhouse performances of Heath Ledger's Joker, Tom Hardy's Bane, and Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. Though Liam Neeson gave a stellar performance as Ra's al Ghul, he and Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow never stole the show from its title actor. In Begins, Bale became an icon for generations to come and changed the paradigm for modern superhero movies in general, but his sequels hinder him from being any higher than number three. Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. My runner up for the top spot is going to be Michael Keaton from Batman 1989 and 1992's Batman Returns. Ah, the classic, the OG, the one who made Batman the coolest superhero on the big screen, Michael freaking Keaton. When Keaton was cast as Bruce Wayne, the world was in an uproar, appalled that Mr. Tim Burton himself chose the guy known for Mr. Mom and Gung Ho to don the bat symbol. Nevertheless, within the first 5 minutes of 1989's Batman, audiences all over knew that they were in for something special. From the outset, Keaton plays Bruce Wayne as a suave, albeit oddball of a billionaire, which makes sense for the world that he and Tim Burton created. It's actually pretty easy to believe how someone like him would actually spend his fortune on gadgets and rubber suits to fight the droves of crime Gotham is known for. Sure, he definitely gets his butt whooped more than the average bat, but this was realism before realism was a thing in comic book movies. Without fancy karate moves or MMA skills, gadgets with but so many functions, and blatantly killing his enemies on occasion, this was the most pragmatic way for Burton and Keaton to convince you how an average man with not so average wealth would handle fighting crime in the real world. Keaton's Bruce Wayne is a disturbed hermit who's more comfortable underneath his robber mask than he is in a three-piece suit. He constantly interacts with others as if he could snap at any moment, feeling as though the tragedy of his past really does drive him to embark on his lifelong vendetta against evil. Whereas other Batman actors played the role as if the cowl was a necessary attachment, Keaton embodies someone who in his very soul is Batman through and through. It goes without saying that Michael Keaton was my absolute favorite Batman growing up, as he was for many others in my generation. Keaton holds his own with such iconic villains and redefined what superhero movies could be. I can't even tell you how many times I watched, rewound, and rewatched Batman and Batman Returns in my old VHS player. The 1989 versions of Gotham and Batman will forever hold a special place in my heart, which is why, even with all his atypical traits, Keaton sits comfortably next to the top spot. Tell me, do you bleed? At number one, I gotta go with Ben Affleck, aka Batfleck, from BVS Dawn of Justice and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Ben Affleck, aka The GOAT, was arguably the most hated actor to have been announced as the Batman when Zack Snyder was casting the sequel to 2013's Man of Steel. Heck, when I read about it, even I screamed, "No!" But afterwards, Zack Snyder dropped our very first look at Affleck in the iconic cape and cowl, leaving me to say only one thing. Holy bleep. The town actor looked like he was ripped straight out of a comic book. He had the size, that training scene was insane, the gruff, and the most comic accurate batsuit ever displayed on screen. His vengeful stare encapsulates the pain and torment encompassing his entire life, as Affleck's Bruce Wayne is a morbid, reckless, pain medication popping, and borderline alcoholic introvert having spent 20 plus years fighting crime. Although maintaining his charming persona in the public eye, Batfleck wholeheartedly convinces you that his character had officially gone off the deep end, consumed by the vindication of his actions as Batman. He's brutal, agile, and gives zero Fs when it comes to the well being of others, resulting in the best fight scene in any comic book ever. Yes, I'm talking about that fight in the warehouse. This scene alone displays how much of an absolute force he is to be reckoned with. Granted, his murderous streak didn't sit right with a number of fans, but he's no less murderous than Keaton's portrayal, for example. This was a jaded Batman pushed to the brink of hell, vowing to do whatever it took to get the job done, and I loved every second of it. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, Batman rallies the jail together to battle the likes of Steppenwolf, further proving that in addition to his arsenal of useful skills, he is also a natural born leader and a full blown superhero. That fantastical element of the character is what every other iteration sorely lacked, as Affleck's Batman is the only one I can actually see going toe to toe with a being like Superman. It's a shame he never got a solo film, and with his last appearance being in The Flash, one can only hope Gunn would let him be in an Elseworld story somewhere down the line, perhaps in a Crisis on Infinite Earths movie or something, but that's just me being hopeful, I suppose. But there you have it, guys. My official ranking of all 11 live action Batman actors that I've seen. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about my ranking, as well as what your personal ranking would be, or just give me your top 5 Batman actors, and we can discuss our differences. Remember to hit that like button and share this video to someone so they can join in on the conversation too. Subscribe to my channel to keep up with my videos, and follow me on all socials at Takes with Eli. But until next time, guys, take care and God bless.